US President Barack Obama is known for being a pretty cool guy, but at the moment he is angry.
Well, the president says the Christmas Day terrorist attempt would have been avoided if his intelligence gang had picked up on information. He made the statement after meeting his spy chiefs and top security aides.
The bottom line is this. The U.S. government had sufficient information to have uncovered this plot and potentially disrupt the Christmas Day attack. But our intelligence community failed to connect those dots, which would have placed the suspect on the no-fly list.
President Obama says this is just not good enough and it won't be tolerated. Now, this raises the question, what exactly do the CIA and Australia's equivalent, ASIO, actually do?
Well, let's ask international intelligence expert John Bigelow. John, good morning to you. Thanks for your time. Just can you give us a little brief explanation of the role of the CIA?
The CIA predominantly is tasked with gathering intelligence about the plans, actions and intentions of what the US calls its adversaries, with a view to providing both the US president and policy and decision makers in the US with information that would then enable them to plan and carry out actions to prevent attacks against the US.
OK, now, John, President Obama clearly is not impressed with his spy chiefs. How did the CIA get it so wrong?
Well, you've got to understand that in the US, the CIA is one of about 16 different organisations within the intelligence community. So it's not just the CIA, there's the CIA and a range of other agencies that are involved in this. There's also groups like the National Counter-Terrorism Centre, which are a joint CIA and FBI type initiative that are responsible primarily for gathering intelligence on terrorist activities and terrorist type attacks. And part of the problem that you have in the US is that you've got so many different agencies and so many different law enforcement bodies. And following the attacks of September 11th in 2001, the US government said, look, we're going to make sure this never happens again. And they've spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on making sure that all of those different systems and networks and databases in all of those agencies can now talk to each other to some degree, because, believe it or not, previous to the 2001 attacks, none of those agencies could really share information. But the problem is, whilst the computer systems might be able to share information, the agencies don't really talk to each other. The human contact isn't that great between groups.
And especially given they all want the glory, don't they? So what about in Australia here, our ASIO, which is our nation's equivalent of something like the CIA, are we more on track here than them? I mean, do our different agencies talk a little bit more and share information? Absolutely.
I mean, between ASIO and ASIS and DIO and DSD and all these other groups, we don't have the kind of parochial attitude here in Australia that you see happening a lot in the US. And also there's a lot more what they call mobility between agencies here in Australia, where you might have one particular individual that can work for sometimes 2, 3, 4 agencies at the same time. And everyone's really sort of working towards a common goal here in Australia. So it's a very different kind of setup. We're based more on the British intelligence model.
Right. John, what's the main role for ASIO?
ASIO's primary role is to gather intelligence regarding security and terrorist threats against Australia.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And really quickly, John, before you go, do we internationally share a lot? Like, do we share a lot of stuff with, say, the CIA, and do they share a bit of it with us? Or is that still not enough?
No, look, absolutely, there is a degree of information sharing that goes on, but the thing that you have to remember with any sort of intelligence agency, countries will only share with you what they deem to be in the best interests of their country. So, you know, they're not always going to share everything, but where it comes to things like terrorism and the protection of both US interests in Australia and also Australia and US assets, then, yeah, there is a lot of information sharing.
That's what we wanted to hear. John, lovely to talk to you. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.